everybody. Welcome back to Bikini Bottom Inquirer. Today we're inquiring about Jimmy Neutron and why is his head so big and why is he not as popular as me?
SpongeBob, Johnny Bravo kicking by the beach bar. TJ making me feel
that was funnier in concept, I think. I think that was funnier in concept.
Cut that out.
Cut that. Welcome everybody back to Bikini Bottom Inquirer. We are back.
We're back.
Woo!
We're back. Starring John Goodman. Bro doesn't understand any of my references. You've never seen We're Back?
No.
It's a movie about dinosaurs that become smart from eating cereal, and
that's the most 90s thing I've ever heard.
They meet two children, and the children run away to the circus and become monkeys. It's a bizarre movie. I don't remember who made it. It was weird. Anyways,
moving on.
We're back.
We're back with the dinosaurs.
Can you tell me we suck at podcasts?
Oi, I'm pretty good at this stuff. I'm out here.
Nope,
job.
You are holding us back.
I probably am the problem. I'm being too dry.
You're the straight man to my absolute nonsensical bullshit.
Well, you present a bit, and then I'm just like, such a silent. I'm not helping at all.
To be fair, the concept of the bit of having SpongeBob introduce the episode, like, the concept was fine. The execution was horrid because whenever I sit down to do a live thing, we just saw it.
What's up, guys? That's a really funny bit that Who Needs Knowledge just did. And we're back for another episode of Bikini Bottom Inquirer. I'm going to be more supportive. I'm wearing my Chucky socks. We out here. Muffin's still here. He's still snoozing. Microphone's in the way.
He's pickled. He's pickled Rick.
He's not moving.
I didn't execute that bit well. I'm sorry, I didn't execute. I formally apologize to all of our subscribers and viewers for wasting your time.
He's not waking up.
We're
getting a bit scared. He sleeps pretty deep, but this is a bit concerning. Muffin.
Just the visual.
He's back. He's back. We're out here.
I don't know why that killed me. Anyways, guys, welcome back to Bikini Bottom Inquirer. Muffin's alive.
He's got a napkin.
Chester, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Were you ever bullied growing up?
No, I think I was probably a bully.
Like for your name, like, or anything.
Yes. At Cub Scouts, I was. It was Chestnut. But that was mostly. They bullied me because I ran the fastest, and when you're a kid, you got to tear them down if they run faster than you.
Okay, I'm not giving people ideas. But like over here, people every time I hear like someone's like, "Oh, Chester," they're like, "Chester the molester?" ? And I'm like, "Did Chester ever get that growing up?"
No, no one did that joke. I've done that joke.
I am the molester.
It's me, guys. I'm back. We out here. We here with Muffin.
No,
not too much.
I was bullied for my name. That's why I was thinking about it. Because for those of you not in the know, my first name is not Who. It is Titus.
I thought it was a cool name.
T-U-S. And that's what I get in adulthood. A lot of people tell me that. Like girls that I date, they're like, "That's a cool name." But as a kid, growing up in elementary school, I was kind of considered the weird kid a lot of times. I felt like the one that got singled out and picked on. I don't know why exactly. I was a heavier kid. As I am now, but being heavier and then having a name with the first 3 letters that it has.
Yeah.
The kids pronounced my name a certain way to bully me, and it always came up. Like, even my friends said it at times, like when I was older. And at that point, I was like, "Oh, you're just a freaking idiot." But I remember it really affected me as a kid. And I was like, let's talk about being bullied.
Well,
before you die.
I was homeschooled. I thought you were homeschooled as well.
Okay, so I guess I should have. I guess I should have expounded upon that. I was homeschooled from kindergarten to 2nd grade. Then I went into public school. Then I pulled out of public school in 7th grade and did online schooling for a year. My mom forced me out of that because she caught me like I was smart, but I didn't like doing my work. So I totally gamed the system and just cheated. And she was kind of responsible for me as the parent at home because it was kind of a form of homeschooling. So she's like, we're not doing this again. I ended up going to a small, what was called a charter school.
I know that name.
I lived
charter
out in
school.
I lived out in a state called Utah.
Oklahoma?
It's full of Mormonism. But well, he sets up his background. Hold on.
Sorry. Yeah. The other one was too bright. It was blowing out the screen.
So then I went to this high school where it was basically all the weird kids. So I fit right in. It worked out. But then my stress got so bad junior year that I dropped out and did online school for a little bit and then just dropped out entirely. So it's like I was homeschooled and I also wasn't homeschooled. So I had the experience, but not the whole time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I did homeschooling till high school. High school, I did online schooling as well, and I just never I went to class for like year 11 and 12. I just didn't show up, and so I was making YouTube videos and making short films, and my mom was so pissed with me all the time. She's like, I got 6 calls today, Chester, that you did not show up to class. And I was like, yeah, well,
every teacher I ever had hated my guts. I never did any of my work. When I was in a Christian school for 1st grade for like, I don't even know, like a few months. I don't know how long I was in that school, maybe 6 months. And I was the bad kid because I said words like shut up and idiot. So I was always getting held back from recess. I never did any of my homework. I don't know how. So I say I dropped out. I ended up going back and finishing because I only had a few credits left. So I found there was an adult education program done through the government called Youth Build, where they would literally pay you to take these classes. Like you got a paycheck for participating in these college construction classes, and they would help you finish out your high school diploma, or if you had too many credits, they would help you get your GED. Somehow I had very few credits I needed left, and I don't know how because I never turned in anything ever. Yeah. I never did any homework, and it wasn't because I couldn't, it was just because I didn't want to. I wanted to make funny YouTube videos and play Battle for Bikini Bottom. And yeah.
Hell yeah.
So that's my schooling experience.
Nice.
Next topic.
What was this? Yeah, how'd we get to that?
Because
I was making fun of Muffin.
Like, because I remembered I wanted to ask you in the last episode, like, were you ever bullied? And then you said something about bullying in between, and I was like,
yeah, no, I think bullying. I avoided all of that, and by the time I was into kind of school system stuff and into like the theater world, I was kind of one of the older cool kids. So like at the youth group stuff.
Chat. You look like you would have bullied me. You're such a freaking good-looking guy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Even with the shitty beard at the moment.
Same.
I wake up with this. I had to shave it for the role, and so now it's awful. But so when I was doing the theater stuff, I did that when I was little, and then I got called back because BJ got cast as the lead role of Addams Family, and they needed someone taller than BJ to play Lurch, and I was the only person taller than BJ. So I got roped in, but the way I got roped in, I was like, all right, I'm going to set some guidelines here of I come when I can, and I come when I want,
and
I do what I want when I'm here. Shut the fuck up. It was all this type of stuff. I was just like, I'm going to drive myself there. I'm not going on school holidays and all that stuff. And they were like, okay, yeah, fine. Well, you're tall. You don't need to do anything. So I was the older kid there. And then with high school stuff, because I didn't care very much, I didn't care about the social circles and all that. Like, I was in all the Snapchat groups, but I was just somehow always considered one of the cool ones. Because every time, a new Snapchat group would be made because someone else in that group was annoying and they wanted to make a new one, I would always just spontaneously be in that one. And so then I would do the exact same thing every time I would just add BJ and our other friend, and we would make it the worst chat in existence. Because my friend didn't even go to that school, but he would pretend that he did. And be like, why did you ignore me when we were at this event together, guys? It was really fucking rude. And everyone would be like, I'm really sorry about that. Like, where were you? I was sitting at the back. I waved at you.
That sounds incredible. I want to do
Anyway.
that. It's funny that you mentioned like going back to school to do plays stuff because like I still have recurring nightmares about that crap. Like I'm back in high school and have to remember all my lines for something that I'm supposed to be in.
Yeah, that's interesting. When I was little, I was definitely more freaked out about it. Doing the Addams Family because I was 17. I was driving myself there. It's probably one of the highlights of my kind of formative years in a lot of ways because I just made such a strong group of friends. It was a really good time for me and BJ. And it was like that first time in life where we were treated like adults because all the other kids were 14, 15 at max. And then there was me and BJ who were 17 and 18. And so we were treated really differently. We did our own thing. We arrived when we wanted and all that. But it's a very positive experience. And I still have a lot of good friendships from then. But when I was a kid, when I was 9, playing one of the ghost boys in Oliver Twist, complete fever dream of hell.
Yeah.
Having to remember, because also I was singing in that one. That's a bit different. In Addams Family, I made grunting noises and harassed the audience. So it was a lot of fun.
Our high school did... What plays did they did? I never ended up being in any of the plays because I was too nervous, but Into the Woods, I think, was the first one they did. And then they did, like, Horton Hears a Who. And then I think they did some kind of Sleepy Hollow, like some take on Sleepy Hollow. Is that Chrissy?
It's branded! It's branded!
It's like the show that we're on. I was just going to say, my high school experience was pretty good, all things considered, up until, like, stress was rough on me, but like me and my friend Seth Quinlan, yep, I'm doxing you. We were like you and BJ basically. I think I mentioned that in that first episode, but we wrote a parody song for health class about the digestive system. And it was basically we just rewrote the words to like one of Rhett and Link's songs, or like we combined a couple of Rhett and Link songs and then like rewrote the words.
It's
our health teacher
baby.
like both hated and loved us at the same time, I think.
Nice.
I remember one time someone's fallen off in class and my teacher, she was like, "What was that?" And I just look her dead in the eyes and I'm like, "That was my Furby." And I don't think Seth recovered for a solid 5 minutes. But yeah, we did a lot of stuff like that. He was the one that
was good.
We were Romeo and Juliet. We sang songs together. We made YouTube stuff together, and then he's still. I was talking to him recently. He's still kicking around, raising his family, doing
Very
life. Good. But yeah. How tall are you? You mentioned
I'm, I think, around 6'5".
Holy sh!
Might be 6'6", might be 6'4". I don't know, but something in that range.
I'm scared to meet you now. You're giant. I'm like, bro, 5'11" on a good day.
5'11" I'm wearing those sweet J's.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and BJ's like 6'3" or something like that. So 6'4".
Why are people so much taller than me? I feel like I have short person problems when I'm not even that short.
I only know like 2 or 3 tall people, and most of them are in my family.
Same. That's what I was gonna say. Is like all my cousins are taller than me now. Like even the younger ones are starting to outgrow me. It's crazy.
But like on the street, it's really rare to see a tall person. And I look at tall people like I'm short. I look at tall people, I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? And then I'm walking past them, and I'm like, wait, I think I still am taller than them. I think I'm still the freak here. But what the hell is this? What is he at from the zoo? What's this? Put him back.
Speaking of short people, let's talk about Jimmy Neutron.
Oh, nice. We want to do, so is your show and tell anything to do with Jimmy Neutron?
I guess I have a show and tell for Jimmy Neutron. I was going to also just briefly, I just felt like I had this on my shelf and I was like, I just want to show this off for anyone that ever had this sealed light bright cube.
Great.
Do you know anything about light bright?
No, I don't.
Is that just an American thing? It's
yes.
Light up pegs, which is a weird word to say in the modern day. But
Ooh. Oh.
So I have not watched this. Oh, it's not orange though. I feel like that's a bummer. But
That's a bit of a bummer.
the case is like bright green. At least it's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that's really cool.
It includes 2 music videos: "Leave It Up to Me," Aaron Carter, and "Kids in America" by No Secrets.
Kids in America, sweet. Leave It Up to Me. I listened to that like a few months ago. Thought it was such a blast from the past. I researched the actor, and he went to prison for
And it shows
doing
you,
things with his sister.
These are the kind of topics that we talk about here on the Bikini Bottom Inquirer podcast.
Let me just
incest,
double check that. Aaron Carter.
I think pedophilia was mentioned in the last episode. Something I never realized, because newsflash, we're about to get into our history with Jimmy Neutron, but Patrick Stewart was in this movie. He played,
Really? Oh yeah, he's King Goobot.
Yeah, I never made that connection.
Let me just find this.
Your mic is so like the ball and then like the pop filter. It's so tiny.
It's cool, isn't it? I've got 2. I've got that one. It's my favorite mic in the world. And this one that I've had since classic YouTube. Do you want to let go of the napkin at some stage? No. This one that I had since like 2015 on YouTube.
Those blue, he likes blue. My experience with blue has been mixed, personally.
The snowball is terrible.
Yeah, and I guess that's my main problem. But I've also heard like mixed things about like the Yeti. Like a lot of people say the
it's
Yeti's
not great either. It's sad though that they've been bought by Logitech, so they don't exist anymore. They got
you
closed.
mentioned that when I was shopping recently. The one I'm using now is a Sennheiser Profile. It's just
I thought
a
you.
USB microphone. I did upgrade, but I've been using this because I already recorded some of my last video on this microphone. I didn't want to swap microphones because it would sound weird. So I've been
It sounds
using
really good.
this one for now. And yeah, I like it. I don't plan on getting rid of it, but I got the pod mic from, what company was that? I don't remember. Rode. Got the Rode pod mic, which everyone seems to be getting nowadays.
They're pretty popular. So, show and tell. We thought we'd do a little show and tell segment because we're talking about Jimmy Neutron and some really exciting news. Yeah. When I found out this news, I literally immediately went to my brother's door and was knocking on because he's staying with us at the moment.
You have a
knocking on the door for him. It was just like, let me tell you about this. I've told him about every single Jimmy Neutron revival event ever because we grew up.
I was gonna say BJ commented on one of these videos and was like, I remember when he used to come and tell me every time that guy messaged you. Where is it? He said, what? I saw a comment from BJ where he was like, oh, I remember that guy. It's related to Jimmy Neutron. I don't know.
Anyway, I have a few little things for show and tell. Firstly, my original copy of Jimmy Neutron Attack of the Tonkies. One of the most underrated Nickelodeon games ever. Just a complete rip-off of Luigi's Mansion, which is an interesting game to rip off, but it was a cool idea.
That was a Luigi's Mansion game?
Yeah, so you walk around and you suck up the Tonkies with the like different stuff. But it's all you're collecting different things as you go around, and you make different inventions that you use at different points and for different boss battles and all that stuff. And there's different upgrades, so you're constantly collecting stuff to build different things out. So that's cool. We should definitely do a video on that sometime. Other one, which I still haven't finished, is Jimmy Neutron Jet Fusion. So this one was made by... Oh, this is also, just a fun little fact, this is an original early Australian G rating.
I've never
boring
actually seen
as anything.
Australian ratings before.
And
How
this
do you feel
one,
about rating symbols?
G8 plus. Scary. That answers your question. This is G8 plus. This is G. No discernible difference. This is the power version, but this one's interesting. This is like more of it's a bit of a platformer, but it's a beat 'em up. It's mostly like a beat 'em up type of thing, where you go different worlds and you like have different abilities and all that. Really interesting one. So bloody hard, and the game's so dark, it's hard to see anything. And then PC copy, Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, the movie game.
Hold on.
This was made by Focus Entertainment and just them. What do you think of this muffin? I think, who's my handsome boy? Who's handsome boy? Who the hell's a boy? Do you like Jimmy Neutron versus Jimmy Neutron? You hold this for me. Good boy. You can lay back. Lay down. Lay down. What? Hey! He doesn't want to lay down anymore? Okay, he doesn't want to lay down anymore. Wow.
So, same cover, but totally different game.
Yeah. And you know what's better than 2 copies of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius? 3 copies of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius!
And I have the GameCube ones, and you have the
We've got this full set across the both of us.
This is the only Jimmy Neutron game I own. It is the only Jimmy Neutron game I played. Spoiler alert.
Muffy, what are you doing, big boy? What are you doing, Stinky Dog? Oh, he wants out. He's had enough.
So have I.
He just presses, when he wants to leave a room, he just presses his forehead against the door. Well, that was show and tell. What a great segment that was. We'll definitely do that again.
I think it's cool. We're workshopping it.
We're trying, guys. We're trying to come up with news segments for this technically newspaper show. So
listen. Oh, we get down to the brass tacks.
Brass tacks. Jimmy Neutron. What is your history with Jimmy Neutron? Because we both kind of know our conjoined history with SpongeBob a little bit, but
okay. So it's kind of, well, it's not really complicated, but it's kind of a weird story. When did the movie come out? So back in 2001, when it went into theaters, I would have been 4, which is weird that I remember this as well as I do at 4 years old. But honestly, I have pretty vivid memories of like being 2 or 3 years old as well. So I think I've been reflecting on this a lot lately. I think it was my very first movie theater experience. Was going to see Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. It's the earliest movie I can remember seeing. The only other ones I can remember seeing around that time were the Spider-Man movies, which came out after.
Hell yeah.
So I went with my dad and my sister. And my sister would have been like 2 or 3, and I liked it. To be honest with you, I'm not sure I've ever watched it since. I have this copy. I'm thinking I'm gonna have to sit down and watch it again. But so we go and see the movie with my dad. I liked it. My sister liked it. Part of the problem, I think, was my sister liked it too much. She kept repeating certain lines from the movie. So I can't remember if it was the same day or like the next day. But like we go to my grandmother's house for a family gathering after seeing this movie. And my sister, there's a certain scene, and I still remember it, even though I don't think I've seen the movie since then, where they're all like, the parents are gone, and they're all like, we could do whatever we want, blah, 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 blah. And Sheen is in the shower.
Peeing in the shower. Go,
shouting
go, go.
about peeing in the shower, and he keeps cutting back to him saying, he's like, I'm still doing it, or whatever. And that resonated with my little sister. She started repeating those lines, like, I'm peeing in the shower. And mind you, my grandparents, like my whole extended family, very conservative. We couldn't watch like Shrek and stuff like so this was like very against gross out humor at the time. They've since chilled out for the most part, but that probably didn't help things. But then when the show came out, I wasn't allowed to watch it. My dad had banned it. And his excuse was that the parents were portrayed as idiots or fools, if you will.
Wow. Considering the mum's an engineer?
Right. And I think part of it's, he went to see the movie with us. I don't think he loved them being kidnapped and forced to do the chicken dance, I guess. I don't know. He thought they were portrayed as dumb.
This is parent racism.
I don't think he had, he didn't watch the show. He didn't really know. He was just what he perceived.
All parents are making vibe check basic stuff on this type of thing. Like my parents did the same with The Simpsons, where Simpsons would kind of come in and out of being banned. And it's because they would see a little bit and think, oh, that's fine. And then see another bit a little bit later and be like, nah, never again.
And that was the thing too, is he was inconsistent. Same rule applied to Fairly Odd Parents. So I wasn't allowed to watch Fairly Odd Parents growing up. So I have very little experience with Jimmy Neutron and Fairly Odd Parents. I would say I actually probably have more experience with Jimmy Neutron, but like I remember one time being on vacation at a hotel and they had cable or whatever, and it was like the only thing on, and he didn't care that we were watching it. Yeah. There were times where I remember watching episodes. I remember watching a special where like the aliens come back or whatever.
Yeah,
And-
Revenge of the. How am I this bad? Oh, yeah. Revenge of the Okians.
So I remember watching episodes like sporadically, but I never really got into it because I wasn't supposed to. And as an adult, because I didn't grow up with it, I've never gone back and actually like given it a fair shot. Like I've never sat down and watched through all seasons. Apparently it was canceled like when it was in the middle of another, like it was supposed to have another season.
One last season, yeah.
And sounds interesting because my perception was it was like SpongeBob where it didn't really like it didn't build on itself, but it sounds like maybe
It did, actually.
Yeah.
It did. For me, the movie came out the year I was born, so I didn't see it in cinemas. But Jimmy Neutron has always had a really strong place. Jimmy Neutron has always had a really strong presence in my life and for me, because it's almost the opposite of your experience. My parents really liked Jimmy Neutron. They thought it was really funny. And
my dad loved SpongeBob. That was his thing.
They would let us watch. So if we were watching something like while we're having dinner or after dinner or something like that, if we would be discussing what we're going to watch, they would watch Jimmy Neutron with us. They did not like SpongeBob. They let us watch SpongeBob and Wild Thornberries and that type of stuff, but they wouldn't watch it with us. That's something we would watch on our own. They would watch Jimmy Neutron with it because my dad loved Hugh Neutron. He thought he was so funny. And my dad loved all that stuff.
That's probably the reason why he didn't like it was because of Hugh Neutron.
My dad always acted like Hugh Neutron as well, though. He was always the kind of like the funny parent and all that.
Hey, Jim Boing!
Yeah, it was all that type of stuff. And so I think he enjoyed it for that because he could kind of relate to us a little bit more and he could make jokes with us about it. But I have a really early memory. So my older brother, because the way my family works is I have 5 siblings and the older 3 are a fair bit older and there was a big age gap, and then there was my older brother and me. And so we were kind of siblings on our own and the other ones were teenagers. So they were kind of off doing their own thing, high school and working and all that. So me and Aubrey were a lot closer. We both really liked Jimmy Neutron, and we liked Jimmy Neutron at the same time because, older siblings are always, that next step further. So Aubrey was into anime before me. He was into Lord of the Rings before me. He was into all that. But we both still always liked Jimmy Neutron. So even though I was younger and couldn't watch a lot of the stuff he was watching, we could both always come back to Jimmy Neutron. So we kind of connected on that a lot, and we still connect on it. Now, I said before, when we found out this news, I immediately went and told Aubrey that there was all this news has come out. And we had like a 20-minute conversation about that. And we have every single time there's been a chance of a like revival type stuff. I have a very vivid memory of Attack of the Twonkies coming out on DVD and being at Coles, so the supermarket here in Australia, and waiting in line and seeing it because they used to put DVDs like where they put gum now and that type of stuff at like an aisle. They used to have DVDs there, and they had Jimmy Neutron there. And I begged and begged and begged for it. And the condition was I was allowed to get it, but I wasn't allowed to watch it then. I had to wait 2 weeks, and I was allowed to watch it on the little portable DVD player while we were driving on a family holiday as a way to shut me up.
Question clearly I'm an idiot then. So Twonkies was a episode?
Attack of the Twonkies was a 2-part special. So it was an hour-long special.
My only knowledge, I had just assumed it was a video game that had nothing to do with the show. So that's news to me, actually.
So that's one of the interesting things about Jimmy Neutron. It's one of the reasons why it has remained as good as it is. Jimmy Neutron was not written by like show creators like with SpongeBob and all that. Jimmy Neutron was written by a group of 90s comedians. That is why it stands up so well and is still funny now and is like, in my mind, such a next level show. Is it was designed for everyone. So it was written by adults, like comedians, with just normal jokes. It wasn't written to be a kid's show. That's why parents could enjoy it and all that. But what is the other thing is it was one of the big 3. People always forget this. It was one of the big 3. It was Jimmy Neutron, it was SpongeBob, and it was Fairly Odd Parents. They were the big 3 that dominated Nickelodeon. They put a lot of money. Jimmy Neutron had about 6 or 7 TV movies, hour-long TV movies. Big events, and most of those on DVDs are now split into 2 parts, but they were huge advertised marathon events. They had the Jimmy Timmy Power Hours, huge events that drew in millions of viewers. Jimmy Neutron was a big deal.
The 2 shows I couldn't watch.
And then it had 1 season that underperformed, and they canned it. And they canned it while Jimmy
Classic
Timmy
Paramount.
Power Hour was still releasing and drawing in millions of views. They just ignored that. And Jimmy Neutron, part of the reason is, it's written by adults. They're not writing it from the perspective of it just being episodic. They are writing with a narrative in there. So there was a building narrative with all these villains. There was a building narrative with Jimmy and Cindy. And there was a building narrative with Sheen and Libby. And there was an overall building narrative of all these kids kind of getting a bit older and their friendships changing, new characters, different characters. There were reoccurring villains, there were reoccurring segments, there were reoccurring jokes, all stuff that was building towards definitely something. But we're not really sure what it is. There was, in 2016, I believe, there was leaked reboot scripts that had been pitched to Nickelodeon about doing 4 or 5 kind of big episodes that were like finalizing things that would wrap up Jimmy and Cindy's storyline, would wrap up the villain storyline, and so on and so forth. I haven't looked into those too much, but there's that type of stuff. Yes, sorry. A question in the back.
No, when I was reading about stuff, and I don't know if this is more headcanon, bull, honky, shivik. I read something about like another movie that was called like The Search for Carl. Do you know anything about this, or was this just something random that I
Search
read?
for Carl. It's peeking in my memory, but I cannot remember whether that was a fan project that was taken to literally, or if that was an actual thing. Because at that time also, it was cancelled, and they had done Planet Sheen, which was their attempt to capitalize more on the SpongeBob stuff and to move, change focuses, and that failed. But one of the things that was really interesting about Jimmy Neutron is obviously it was CGI. So it was, firstly, at the beginning, a lot more of an expensive show to make. But as time went on, it was becoming cheaper and cheaper.
Right.
But it is also worth mentioning that the cancellation of Jimmy Neutron isn't entirely Nickelodeon's fault. DNA Productions made The Ant Bully, which was a financial disaster, and shuttered. And basically, they shuttered because of that. And so that took Jimmy Neutron down with them.
I liked that movie. I didn't realize they made that one.
Yeah. So they made that, and that killed the company, basically.
So kind of back to my experience, the only other experience I had was Nicktoons Unite. So when did Nicktoons Unite come out in the arc of all this?
Well, Nicktoons Unite is coming out throughout those. I do know.
Because then like in the next one, he was relegated to like...
Yeah.
That's
the interesting thing.
Background character, and then he just kind of disappeared over time or whatever. It was weird.
Yeah. So Jimmy Neutron was cancelled and ended production in around 2006. I believe finished airing early 2007. Globs of Doom came out in 2008. So Globs of Doom is technically the final appearance of Jimmy Neutron.
What a way to go out.
What a way to go out. And I think there was actually in like 2012, there was some Mercedes family minivan ad that he featured in as well.
Why?
That you should check out. It's Jimmy Neutron in HD. It's the best CGI animated Jimmy Neutron. They made brand new models for this minivan ad.
Hold on.
I'm not sure if it's Mercedes. It might have been Honda or something, but...
I'm just going to look up Jimmy Neutron car ad. Chrysler Town and Country.
Oh, Chrysler Town Country is... Look at how clean that animation is compared to the rest of the show.
Why did they do this? Why? I don't understand.
4 years after the show was cancelled. So that's when this is coming out, is when the first discussions about whether they're doing a remake or like a reboot start. Is because they're literally, all these are brand new, freshly made models in 2010.
Like, are you using Jimmy Neutron to sell a car, first of all?
It was huge, dude. It was huge.
But after
we think of it,
though, like,
yeah, I understand, but like we think of it as like this forgotten forgotten classic. It was as big as SpongeBob and any of those at the time.
And
it wasn't as big.
That's such an interesting perspective for me, because for me it never was, because it wasn't allowed to be in my life. So, and my perception kind of, especially when like with Nicktoons Unite and everything, it was kind of the lesser of all those, because like personally I didn't like the Jimmy Neutron world in that game. Not that any of the worlds in that game were that great, but I felt like Jimmy Neutron was weak compared to the 4 of them.
I reckon we'll do a watch along. Season 1 in my mind is fairly weak, but the other seasons are still pretty peak and they've gotten a bit racy. There's some content in there that's a bit interesting. Also, just a comment on this by Lord Vegetables. Jimmy being enthralled by a late 2000s soccer mum minivan like it's some advanced alien spacecraft is very funny.
Brain blow! Yeah. Well,
And another person.
blast.
Another person. Reminder: this commercial is Jimmy's final animated appearance.
Yeah.
A minivan animating. That is crazy, dude.
That just triggered a memory. I had a Jimmy Neutron shirt that I wore like for years, and I wasn't allowed to watch the show, but I had the shirt.
And just like one of those last little memory bits before we get into the new news.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being a kid, and we live in a small country town, but they just built a big mall here, and so we would go there all the time. And I remember as a kid going there and finding new Jimmy Neutron DVDs, and we'd be so excited. So we'd bring one home and see new episodes and all that.
I remember going to the mall and finding like the toys that were like merchandise for the movie. Like he was riding in that tire thing. Like, yeah, I remember like going to some mall and seeing those and thinking, man, those are so cool. We've
got a few of those around as well. But yeah, I remember very vividly when that all stopped. And we just stopped going there and finding new DVDs. And every time we would go, we would be checking for like 2 or 3 years until probably like 2012, 2013. Every time me and my brother would always go to the DVD section of both there and Woolworths, because that was back when grocery stores had DVDs, to see if there was a new Jimmy Neutron DVD. Never was. Because we, at that stage, here in Australia, the way we would only get Nickelodeon stuff is through those DVD releases. So it wasn't a channel. Yeah, it wasn't a channel that we had access to. So it was only through DVDs.
Interesting.
In about 2014, my brother discovered that there was actually seasons of Jimmy Neutron and not just the DVDs that we had. He found online an illegal rip of all the episodes, and we bought that. And we were like, holy shit. We had not seen anything from the final season of Jimmy Neutron. We hadn't seen any of the specials, anything. It was like a whole world opened up for us.
So you grew up loving Nick, but you never had the actual experience of watching it live, like as a station, like that kind of thing. Like that is so interesting.
The Jimmy Timmy Power Hours were an exception. They got like broadcasted everywhere, but nothing else. Everything, all in Australia, all you really have are Australian channels. So we didn't get anything.
See,
my first experience with Nickelodeon was they did a partnership deal with McDonald's, and if you got a Happy Meal, you would get a random DVD of a Nickelodeon show. That's how we discovered these shows. Is we got a Jimmy Neutron one, which was the Pants episode. We got a SpongeBob one, which was Bubble Buddy, and we got a Wild Thornberrys one. That's how we discovered what Nickelodeon was through these DVDs.
The origins. You didn't get into this before. This is interesting because that's so foreign to me. I grew up with the American experience. Like,
yeah. If you paid for Foxtel, you could get it, but it was like in Australia like $100 a month. Right. Our granddad had Foxtel, so whenever we would go and visit him, like once every every few months, we would be very lucky if we could get Nickelodeon on his TV.
Mind you, I didn't always have cable, but when I did, like that's all I watched was Nickelodeon, really, like, and Disney Channel. I didn't really watch Cartoon Network. The shows on there didn't register with me. But
I think that's why now I have such a negative viewpoint on shows like iCarly and all that. Like I hate them. I don't care at all. I don't have any interest, because every time we would be there and we would want to see Jimmy Neutron, one of these damn live action shows was playing. And I was like, I don't care. Play a damn cartoon. I'm here for 20 minutes.
I don't care about Drake and Josh. Give me Jimmy Neutron.
Yeah, it was very much like that. And we'd see like one episode and then it'd immediately jump back to iCarly.
That explains why you don't know anything about Ned's Declassified.
Yeah, I never had the ability to just watch Nickelodeon all day and discover new shows. That's why I've never watched Danny Phantom. I've watched two or three.
Watched Danny Phantom?
I've never watched the Teen Robot one, a Cat Dog. I've never watched. I've watched the Beaver ones. I've never watched Loud House.
I'm making a podcast with a fraud. No, I never watched Loud House. I didn't really watch Cat Dog either. Like a lot of the older stuff I didn't watch, but like Danny Phantom, I watched Danny Phantom later in life. I didn't really grow up with that one. But.
And going to Salvation Army and those types of places, they would have VHSs. So that's where I had Rugrats, is because they would have VHSs of Rugrats that I could buy.
And I guess that's kind of
50 cents a pop.
You have a fixation on the VHS tapes because that was your experience, I guess. Like,
yeah. And just saying, I still have all the DVDs. So I have all the classic SpongeBob DVDs where it's like 3 episodes and like a custom-made play menu type of thing. I have all those still. I have them in a tub downstairs. But yeah, that was how we experienced it, which I didn't think was particularly weird. But in talking to you, yeah, it does sound.
That just blew my mind. Like, because I remember like growing up, like they would have like programming blocks like that were called like You Pick with Pick Boy. And it was like this iconic thing with Nickelodeon where it was like Pick Boy. And it was basically just like live segments where they would you could vote. I don't know if you
Really?
called in to vote, like American Idol style, or like you would vote online at some point. You could vote on what episode of a show you wanted to see next or whatever.
Right?
And in between they would do these like kind of game showy, not exactly, but like these little live segments with like kids, and they'd be like it'd play Price is Right style games and like I guess like brain blast kinds of things, and that's what I grew up with. Like, so a lot of the times where I would experience episodes of the show would be during that programming block, and then eventually they just got rid of that and just aired all the episodes as single things.
Right.
But
yeah, my only similar experience to that was Saturday mornings where on Channel Go they would play a bunch of Warner Media stuff, so Warner Bros stuff. So they would play Looney Tunes and all that, and they would have like little segments join it all together, and that's where I could watch Ben 10 Alien Isolation.
yeah, I didn't grow up with Ben 10 either.
I have a very vivid memory of the build up to the Ben 10 10th of the 10th of the 10th event, which was like, that was endgame for us. That was the biggest thing in the world, because that was like a 2-episode special.
I had a friend who was like, he had an Omnitrix. He was obsessed with like it, and I
Same, bro. Same.
Never seen it.
I don't get it now, but as a kid, that was my Avatar, because I never really got into Avatar: Last Airbender, but I got into Ben 10.
I didn't get into
I was
that
into
either.
Ben 10 then.
Saying that, of course, I now watch YouTube videos by like there's a YouTuber named Billiam who has gone through all the Ben 10, like the various series, and like done retrospectives on them. So I've watched all that, and it's like, I don't know why I'm watching this, but it's interesting.
Hell yeah. Anyway, we should get into the main exciting reason for why we're talking about Jimmy Neutron so much. There's some news. There's some potential news.
Right. And how much did you, because I can kind of go over this as well if you didn't dig into it as
Yeah,
deep,
do you want to lead through it? I'll follow your
Sure.
lead.
So you mentioned that there was like, you heard something about like a sequel movie had leaked, like a revival of some kind or a reboot.
Well, what I did was, because we had discussed in the previous episode about how THQ and Nordic had bought all these licenses but hadn't done anything with them. And so I'd gone just to do some research, because I was like, did they actually say that they had bought the licenses for like those Jimmy Neutron games? And I was trying to search up for something for there. And then, you know, the annoying AI overview thing that just pops up all the bloody time? That popped up and said that, and gave me this information that there are, because, you know, I'm searching about Jimmy Neutron news, like Jimmy Neutron, anything upcoming. And so they gave me this information about that. So I immediately jumped over and
you said it
asked
mentioned this, and then you also, you said it's mentioned a game. I couldn't find anything about that. I think that was bullcrap. But
I think it was mentioning the game because I was searching about a game.
Okay.
So he was trying to tie it in.
And speaking of that, apparently they also have the rights to like Rugrats games, but that doesn't make sense because that other company did a Rugrats game. I don't know. Anyways, so I looked into this. So apparently earlier this year, I want to say it looked like it was around February this year. So a couple months ago.
Which screenshot are we talking about?
So the first one is the one where it shows his profile picture and everything. Adam Pava. So, or Pava, I don't know how you pronounce his name. I'm going to pronounce it Pava. Could be wrong. I apologize if you're watching Mr. Adam Pava.
Pava would be a bit weird.
Right. So this one is like in Spanish, but this was the only actual screenshot I could find. So this guy apparently put on his LinkedIn profile everything that he is working on or has been working on. And it mentions at the top, I guess I'll go like that. He worked on an unannounced DreamWorks movie based on a very popular IP. Kind of curious about that one. Worked on some Beach Boys movie, childhood monsters project, just a bunch of crap. But then at the top it says, Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius sequel for Paramount Animations / Nickelodeon Films. And so I guess someone discovers this and it starts to like light a fire on Reddit. Everyone's freaking out like, oh, it's happening. It's happening, everyone. It's happening. And apparently this became a big thing, and I don't know if he preemptively changed it or if they were like, you little
You bastard.
freak, what have you done? He changed it. So if you go to like his profile now, I took this screenshot. It now lists it as screenwriter for a Paramount Animation sequel. And it says that he started work on it in December of 2023.
Hold on a
But
second. When was
we
my
already-
video made?
What was that?
2020. Damn, I'm still off.
I was gonna say in that video you talk about, you're like, it's gonna happen in 1 year. We'll get into that. So clearly the cat's out of the bag. Something was being done with this. Articles that mention it, they caution, they're like, things can change. And I mean, if you look at the topic that we just discussed on the last episode, things change. The things get canceled or moved around. There's not really any clear. The only thing we have to go off of is this man's LinkedIn profile. I thought it was interesting to kind of look at because this man had nothing to do with Jimmy Neutron, based on what I could tell. Like if you look at let's look at what he's known for. Hold on.
A lot of his work is from years ago that is still untitled.
So like,
stuff that hasn't released.
I know it looked like he comments that he got his start on a show called Clone High, which I've heard of before, but I don't know much about it. I feel like I've heard like mixed things. It has a high rating.
It's a Cartoon Network.
Something
adult
like that.
animated science fiction sitcom.
Yeah, it looked like he had a lot of...
Bro, is this by the people that made Total Drama Island?
He had a lot of hands in just Cartoon Network stuff in general. He worked on Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, My Gym Partner's a Monkey, Harvey Birdman. I think that was like a Adult Swim thing. Johnny Bravo. And he hasn't really... Like, he wasn't like a showrunner. He worked on episodes, based on what I'm seeing here. Like, he produced... The only show he was actually a producer on is Rated 3, as far as like Out of Jimmy's Head. I remember seeing ads for this. Something called Out of Jimmy's Head, and then some other things. So it's like...
Out of Jimmy's Head.
I think it was... Let me double check. It was like a show where a kid like has a head injury and then starts seeing cartoon characters. Unless it's something different and I'm totally... confused, but I remember a show like this basically where it's like live action mixed with animation, and it was weird. Apparently it sucked based on that score. And so all he's really done is like episodes of Cartoon Network. He apparently was involved in the Lego movie. He did some rewrites for the Lego movie and also wrote like a short that they use at Legoland probably. But it's like a 4D thing. And then he wrote a movie called The Box Trolls, which I vaguely remember when this came out, but I don't remember.
Yep. Is that by who directed that? That looks like a it looks like a Paranorman kind of thing, but I guess not.
And that one got like okay ratings. But so basically it's like, first of all, why are they doing this? Second of all, why did they choose him? Is my questions, I guess. I mean, obviously there was fan outcry for this to bring this back, but why did they choose this man? I don't know. I guess you should kind of maybe get into...
Yeah, I'll get into some of my history, but I just need to go to the bathroom real quick.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll be back in just a second. One second.
Hello, guys. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about, what should I say while he's gone that'll be a funny bit? I'm not good on the spot, clearly. I freeze up. It's like when the camera's off, I'm hilarious. Not that you'd believe me, but I'll talk to myself as if I'm talking to the camera, and it flows, funny jokes, and then the camera's actually on and I'm communicating with an actual person, and it all goes out the window. So guys, now that he's gone, I just wanted to say C&B Extra is a total ripoff of Who Needs Normal. And I know that C&B Extra existed before Who Needs Normal technically, but that doesn't matter. He and him met once. I went to Australia and I met him and I was like, hey, look, I have this idea for this YouTube channel where I talk about SpongeBob. And he was like, that's so cool. I can't wait to watch it. And when I finally got back to America after a long journey, he had already made a YouTube channel where he stole all my ideas. And made reaction slop videos to Rehydrated. Battle for Bikini Bottom, he Rehydrated. And ever since, I've been plotting my revenge. What?
Have you been doing this on your own?
It was a horrible bit. It was just ignore it. Don't use it.
Okay.
Another horrible bit.
Another horrible bit. Who needs normal? Back again. Yeah, so back in like 2020,
You sound far away from your microphone now. I don't know why.
Back in 2020, sorry, I was away from my microphone. So back in 2020, I had a bit of a reinvigorated interest in Jimmy Neutron and trying to see what could happen, because this was just off the heels of Hey Arnold and off the heels of Rugrats kind of moving forward with their stuff. So I made a big video about it, chatting about a bunch of information, because I was kind of still wanting to do, this was, after I had kind of quit doing a lot of the news videos. So I was trying to work out what was big stuff that I could do that would be engaging and was kind of a bit more uplifting.
That you totally
that
stole
slap
from me. I can't believe you stole that from me. It's crazy.
Stole what?
Nothing.
Slop?
You'll understand.
Explain
when you're
yourself.
older. You'll understand.
Explain yourself.
When you're older.
All right.
You'll understand when you're older. Never mind.
So I made a video about Jimmy Neutron, and it got 180 comments. It was like 30,000 views. It did really well. But what was interesting about it is it's probably the video that's had the most conversation around it. So lots
Which
of talking
video
of
was
different people. This is Jimmy Neutron revival finally happening?
Okay, yeah, that was the one I was in the middle of.
Yep, January 2020. So this had comments from Mark DiCarlo in it. So he's the voice actor of Hugh Neutron. And then I got in contact with the person who's behind most of this stuff with Jimmy Neutron, which was Revive Jimmy Neutron and the Jimmy Neutron Revival Project. And they kind of reached out to me to let me know that, because they follow these people privately, that Mark DiCarlo had retweeted it. So had Debbie Derryberry, the voice of Jimmy Neutron, and Keith Alcorn, the creator of Jimmy Neutron, had shared it on his personal Facebook.
Are you
So on
telling
his
me
private
you're
Facebook.
famous right now? Is that what
I'm
you're
so
telling me?
famous right now. So then I kind of was having conversations with them, and they are the undisputed hero of anything that happens here. Anything that happens here is because of Revive Jimmy Neutron and the Jimmy Neutron Revival Project. And they received the most horrific treatment on the social media that I've ever seen.
Why?
They were... So my thinking is, I don't know very much about them on like a personal level. They've since deleted most of their stuff. They were an older person doing this. So I think they were in their 30s. I think they were an older person. I think they watched it when they were older, or maybe they watched it with their kids or something like that, and they were really engaged with it. And they were quite quite open with that kind of information about themselves, that they were older and awesome. And I believe most of the attacks that they got were directed at that, on like, you're a 30-so-year-old person still obsessed about a kid's show. There were people that made fake Nickelodeon accounts and different fake accounts of different people, of like different people involved in the show, that they made in order to harass them for years, like daily messages, harassment stuff. And they went through several, and this is one of the things. If you're getting harassed on the internet, this is something, and I don't blame them for this because they are an older person and didn't grow up in this. If you're being harassed on the internet and people being angry at you, the worst thing that you can possibly do is respond. The worst thing you can possibly do is fire back or admit that it's getting to you.
What do they call that? There's a term that the internet likes to use. There was some famous like singer that did that and it backfired on her, and
I'm not sure.
they named it after her. Something effect. Some lady name effect. I can't think.
Yeah. Well, I watch a lot of like Penguin Zero and those guys, and they're always, talking about these people that have done something wrong. But literally, I'm watching it, I'm like, there is no situation, there is nothing they could have done here where you would have given them any props. They've come out and they've made an apology, and you're tearing them down for that. They haven't made an apology. You're tearing them down for that. They try to continue with what they're doing. You tear them down for that. It's like, and they always like throw out these like, oh, if they just did this, then everyone would accept them. Or if they just did this, then people would do that. It's like, that's not how that works. You move on and you just wait it out.
Charlie's a little bit misguided. I mean, he's tried to kind of pull back on some of the drama at least, but He's still.
Sorry, Muffin's coming again. It's okay.
Welcome back to the show, Muffin. Muffin, what's your experience with Jimmy Neutron?
But yeah, so their main thing is they would do these posts like once a month saying like, oh, I've been having this attack from this, and you know, I'm not sure if I should keep doing this and all that stuff. They would show cracks, they would show weakness, and that's a very vulnerable and a very good thing in most circumstances. But not on the internet. Not on the internet. And so the attacks got worse and worse, and they eventually stopped doing it. And so they've shut down all their different social medias. So there's no way that I can reach them anymore. I sent them a few messages after they shut down, just being like, hey, if you do actually see this, you know, you did a lot of amazing work, and it was seen by a lot of people, and all that type of stuff. So it's quite a shame and quite sad. And I do hope that they are seeing this new news that's coming out and are recognizing the impact that they had in it, because they were the first person doing like signature stuff and having contact with all these actors and creators and all that. So, yeah.
It's the Streisand effect, by the way. I looked it up.
Barbara Streisand, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know much of the actual details. They never told me the name of the person that was harassing them. They said it was the same person for most of
It was the guy
time.
who he was the AW guy. No, I don't know.
But yeah, well, look at that. Like the interaction we had there. There are just weird people on the internet where like there's no justifiable reason for that behavior, but they do it and they continue to do it for an unreasonable length of time. Where you think most people would get over the joke or would move on. Most people don't.
And that sounds like a weird situation. So like I guess besides the drama, like what was did you already explain how this guy reached out to you because you made this video? Was that the whole point? Or
I had reached out to them before I made the video to ask for information. So they were a source for me for a bunch of information because I couldn't find I was just kind of asking their experience, and I asked them a bunch of questions, and they had contacts with people like Keith Alcorn. Keith Alcorn has a private Facebook account, and this person
who's Keith Alcorn for
the creator of Jimmy Neutron.
Okay. For the pleb like me.
Yeah, so he had a private account, and so I couldn't get in contact with him, but this person had ended up being friends of them. So they had some a throughput there. So I was able to get some information because Keith Alcorn had posted on their personal social media that he had been to Nickelodeon to do a pitch type of thing. But none of that was public. So I had to go through this person to find information on that.
Sorry. Yeah, okay. No, I was listening, but I just read this comment where they're like, someone says, just imagine Jacob Tremblay as Jimmy Neutron, Brody Rose as Carl Weezer, McKenna Grace as Cindy Vortex, Millie Davis as Libby Fulfax, Jack Dylan Grazer as Sheen Estevez, and you just respond, I have no idea who any of those people are. To be fair, the only name I recognize out of any of those is McKenna Grace, but that's because in recent years she's gotten way more famous. She's done a lot more stuff, so.
Right. Anyway, other than my fights with people, but yeah, so
a lot of comments on this video.
Yeah, it was a good time, and I did a few other videos on it, and they did well as well. But yeah, so yeah, I just want to say that that's a big thing that's been kind of on my mind as all the discussion has been happening. I am interested to see how this goes because Nickelodeon is not the company that it was. The writers are not the people that it was, and when you tell me that the guy behind Box Trolls,
that's kind of what's been on my mind as well.
Has anything to do with this. I just think so. It's going to be a very solid 6 out of 10 experience. I hope it's not. I wouldn't be against a movie. I would prefer a season.
It sounds like it's going to be a movie based on what everything is saying. It's described as a movie.
But a movie could kick along to a show, depending on how they handle it.
If it does well, but we all know Paramount, who knows?
But also the cinema world at the moment is very, very all over the place, so it's not a great era. I wouldn't want it to release now.
Well, that's also my theory. I don't even know that it releases in theaters. I kind of think
straight to streaming.
I think it's a streaming movie because that's what they've been doing. Like I don't remember the last time I saw a Nickelodeon movie in theaters.
Yeah. And if they're in talks of Paramount, I'm interested because they do have a deal at the moment with Netflix. And I believe there were some rumblings back in the day, maybe about 2017 or something, about Netflix potentially buying the rights for Jimmy Neutron, like the releasing rights and them doing a series through of Jimmy Neutron, because there was a lot of conversation early on with Netflix. And I believe there was some meeting that Debbie Derryberry, the voice of Jimmy Neutron, went to at Netflix, and that's what caused all the discussion. Is her and the voice actor of Carl had been at a meeting at Netflix, and that also began a whole other debate because the voice actor for Sheen has been left out of a lot of this type of stuff, and so people think he's been kind of blacklisted by Nickelodeon, so he might not be included in whatever remake happens, which would be a real shame. But he's been quite outspoken about Nickelodeon not answering back calls and being quite distant with him since the failure of Planet Sheen.
He was blacklisted. I know the guy who plays Carl well, not personally. He's in everything. His son used to be a member of Game Explain, and now he has his own channel, Good Vibes Gaming.
There was also a Nickelodeon podcast at one stage that had the two of them on it, and they were talking very openly about wanting to do a revival series and all that, and it was weird. They mentioned the voice actress for Cindy and Libby and all that, but then they never mentioned Sheen, and so I was always a bit worried about that.
I could foresee them recasting him. I couldn't imagine they would do it and just not include the character and just say,
they would do something.
He's off on Planet Sheen. He's not here. I read a lot of stuff from just quotes of the actors. The actors want it to happen, clearly.
Very much so.
I know. I can't think of his name. The voice of Carl, he had throat cancer at one point. I remember that.
He's made a full recovery, though. He's doing quite well.
I thought that was the case, but I wasn't sure. What would you want this to be, I guess?
I would desperately want... Also, I'm just reading the other document that you had for the possible sequel that was planned to release in 2004. Why didn't it?
I don't know.
It was nominated for an Oscar movie. I understand doing the TV show was probably their next focus, but like Nickelodeon makes the weirdest choices in my mind. So they're saying a sequel. They're not saying a reboot, which is fantastic. I want this to be a continuation on. My dream would be it starts with them like rescuing Sheen from the whole Planet Sheen stuff.
That would be good.
You make it, you can, like, you include it all. I hate reboots that ignore stuff. That's what was so successful about the Hey Arnold movie. I want that. I need John A. Davis and Keith Alcorn to be involved. I want some of those original writers. I want 90s writers, predominantly. I want some comedians on the board. And I want the full cast. I want the full cast. I don't want the Rugrats thing where they change the parents' voice actors as well. I want the full cast for everyone. That's the big things to me. That's
the pipe dream, I guess. I have a hard time believing any of that will happen based on what we know, but also I'm losing it. I had a thought. It was in there.
I think we'll at least see John A. Davis. I think we'll have him because he's been the most proactive in all the revival stuff. I think we'll see him. I 100% think we will have Jimmy Neutron's voice actress. I'm 100% sure we will have Carl's, and I'm 100% sure we'll have Cindy Vortex's. Other than that, I think it's all up in the air. Mark DiCarlo possibly is Hugh because he's such a meme figure as well.
Right. My main question, I guess, when I heard about this is like, what is it going to look like? And then you showed me the car commercial, and now I'm like, would it look like that, or would they redesign? Because that's also a fear, is like, do they redesign the characters and ruin it for everyone?
I think it will look a lot like the new SpongeBob movies. It'll be very shiny, very bright. I think it will be very... I think they'll stay mostly true to character design. They might change some clothing stuff, but they'll be so much more expressive. Like what we've seen with that new Shrek trailer, where it's like, they're so much more expressive that they've lost some of that original look. I think that will be the big thing, because their eyes will. Their eyes will be different shapes because they're always squinting and frowning and all this type of stuff. So that will look really different. Their mouths will look different because they're so much more expressive and open and wide and all that, and showing so many more like of that. Because the rigging will be so much more advanced.
Right. I keep thinking about Teen Titans Go. It's not a fair comparison, but like the way people reacted when they redesigned all those characters.
Yeah. I fully expect that it will be, announced, people will be super excited, and then we'll get the first trailer and it will be divided in half. And people will really dislike it or really like the art style. And that will carry on through most of it, and it will be impeded financially because of that. Because people want a reboot, people want more, but realistically, they just want season 4 exactly as it was. They don't want
that.
something more.
2D animated version a while back. There was like a 2D animated Jimmy Neutron thing that someone made. Do you know?
Where they reanimated it?
I guess
The fan project.
Was it a fan project? Let's see. Jimmy Neutron remake Eric Brown. I don't. That's what comes up when I look it up. I don't know. I saw that earlier and thought the designs of those characters look really cool.
I saw that and I thought that looked cool, but at this stage, cost-wise, CG would be cheaper than that.
Right. I mean, that's why they do all the SpongeBob movies in CG now, I would say.
Yeah. So I think that's been my biggest argument for it these past 5 years is Jimmy Neutron was designed to be that and to be a cheaply animated thing. So
I think a lot about what it would look like, what the plot would be. But as someone, like, I'm interested, but as someone that didn't watch it, it's hard for me to say like, my opinion, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it will be tricky, but I think they can nail it. I think they can do a good job of it. I think it will always come with the weaknesses that these shows always do, which is people watch it and it is slightly different just because it is new content.
When
like all the original team could jump on board and people would still complain that it felt different because it is different and it is new.
It's also kind of that thing where everyone's like, I think Jacksepticeye said this, where he was like, you don't miss, like, Jacksepticeye was better when I was a kid. It's not that I was better when you were a kid. It's that you preferred the way you felt when you were a kid watching Jacksepticeye. So it's like, it's never going to bring back those feelings that people have of nostalgia and everything, because it's not going to be the same thing, first of all. And it's never going to be as good. Just like everyone says, you know, SpongeBob is not as good as it was. And
it's never going to be as good as if you go in with the mindset of it needing to be that. And that's the issue with a remake or a reboot or a sequel, is they're saying that's the company saying, we are going to give you that experience again. Mm-hmm. That is the inherent flaw of that world.
When do we think it happens? So if it's been worked on since 2023.
Year and a half, it said, yeah. I think we will, if it is true, I think we will be getting I think we will get an announcement and a trailer this year.
And then the whole movie leaks. And everyone sees it behind the scenes. And then it'll come out another year.
Yeah, I think it will be releasing towards the end of next year. And I think they're going to be gunning for that. If it is Keith Alcorn and those guys, I think they're going to be gunning for another Oscar nomination. So they're going to be going slightly earlier in the year. Like, not towards the very end, so that they can still be in time for the actual, like, animation award stuff. So I'm thinking October, September, 2026.
Do people care about the Oscars anymore?
No, but I think if you got that close to getting an Oscar,
how close? Like, what was it? Just nominated for best animated?
They lost to Shrek. It was them and Shrek.
Ooh, yeah, that hurts.
So they're going up against Shrek again.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Damn.
Zendaya versus Jimmy Neutron. There you go.
But no, I think I am dubious because I have gone through this about 6 times in the past.
That's kind of what
10
I was
years.
Like, it seems like you had a long history with hoping that this is going to happen, and then all of a sudden you were Googling something and were like, "Oh, what now?"
I've been caring about this and making videos about this for 5 years, and I missed it by 2 months. This is the issue when you get to an age like mine, where I'm just like, you know what, social media is terrible for me, and I don't need it, and I delete it all off my phone. So I just miss things now.
Well, honestly, social media at this point, you're gonna miss things because it's just a cluster.
Listen, everyone comments on my old videos being like, this didn't age well. None of them commented to say, hey, this aged good.
This aged.
Have you heard the news, Chester?
Spectacularly.
That's that.
Sorry, I'm losing steam.
That's good. Well, I think that's everything we had to talk about, really.
We gotta. What's your favorite Jimmy Neutron game? The models in the one the PC version of Boy Genius. What happened? Why?
So good. It's so funny considering how like pristine those models are for the SpongeBob games. Like they're perfect models. In the cutscenes, they're awful, but in the actual game, like they're fantastic. And then in that one, it's just hell.
Why did they give Goddard a voice? Why was it like a platformer? Why did it exist?
I don't. That would actually be, just saying, a good game to look into a little bit. Is to into AWE games and the stuff they've done.
I've tried, bro. I've contacted the dude who made the company. I can't get anyone to message me back on that front. And you said you thought maybe that guy who was screwing with us deleted some stuff. I can't find anything about the company. It's like they're a ghost. I don't understand. Like, you should work with me on this. We gotta get to the bottom of what's the deal with this company. Why did they exist?
Yeah, but that'd be heaps of fun. We should do that. But my favorite is definitely Attack the Tonkies. We should play it together on stream sometime. I reckon. Isn't there? I feel like there's a way, because like games, you can do stuff now, like with Steam games that are solo. Like multiplayer, but in the same room, where you can actually play the multiplayer online. I wonder if you could do something like that with Dolphin, where if you could do like a screen sharing, the other people can control the camera, like control the computer remotely.
Nintendo has it like baked into their game streaming service, so you would think that someone has figured it out and set it up with like Dolphin, but we'll have to look into that.
I'll have to look into that, yeah, because it'll be fun, because we have poll, for people who haven't checked, we do polls and stuff like that in the post section of the YouTube channel. If you're on Spotify, we will also be posting polls and stuff like that, which you can access on Spotify somewhere on our little channel segment. But yeah, you can follow along, and we'll be doing updates on there. All the streams will be happening live on the YouTube channel, but then will be posted later as they'll stay up on the channel, so you don't need to be live for any of those if we do live streams. But yeah, but no, absolutely, Attack of the Tonkies is really good. It is bizarrely good and well made. Like, I would put it on par with, not exactly visually, but gameplay wise, on par with a lot of the very first Luigi's Mansion game and all that. Like, there's a lot. I would say it's probably one of the most polished and well-rounded Nickelodeon games there is. And it's not a platformer.
The trailer for it in other games that I played and thinking, oh, that looks high quality. That looks good.
Yeah.
Same with,
but we should do something on AWE, because I think I have a lot of interest in it, and like, what's interesting about them is the fact that I've tried to do, like, I've done a handful of videos on AWE games, and what's interesting is if you watch through them, I'm saying different information about them each time, because every time I've gone to research, there's different research that's on online that's freely available, and it all, like, which game came out first is all muddied, and which game was like made by what, like, all that is so muddy and so unknown. It's really interesting.
Well, I know they were working on like I don't know which one, maybe both at the same time. I don't know. Employee of the Month and Operation Krabby Patty. They were working on it at the same time as like Super Sponge and Revenge of the Flying Dutchman and possibly Battle for Bikini Bottom to a degree. Like, they were all being produced at the same time. And
then Lights, Camera, Pants being a completely different game, the PC version.
Yeah. And they did that a lot, where it's like they made the PC version. It was a point and click. And like, I mean, because Lights, Camera, Pants, that's just like a party game on consoles. And then like, I remember watching you play the PC version and being like, I don't understand what we're doing.
What are we doing here? Just to suffer.
I keep losing all my thoughts. I'm trying to look up AWE games, and there's just nothing. No Wikipedia.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll get there eventually. But thank you guys so much for joining us on another episode of the Bikini Bottom Inquirer. This time with flu version of Chester.
Hold on. 1:30 in the morning version of Who Needs Normal.
Hey!
Anyways, thank you for inquiring with us on Bikini Bottom Inquirer, where...
Thank you, fellow reporters. Thank you, inquirers.
Next time on the show, I'm going to teach Chester the art of the square dance.
Some American culture.
In American schools, they forced us to square dance.
Wowzers.
We square dance. We learned how to square dance, and we learned how to play the recorder.
Go do the two-step and cowboy boogie, straight high and straight out.
Everybody.
Form one of those barn lines or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, you do this, and it's like the people go under you. Stay in school, kids.
I watched Recess, no stress, and then the kids next door always playing, messing with each other in the back treehouse, chilling and possibly fighting evil, jerking off to Kim and having fun again with my cartoon friends. No classmates, anyway, to hell with them, cause I was hanging with who I thought was cool. All the